Paul Klee has been called many things: a father of abstract art, a Bauhaus master, and the propagator of abstract expressionism. But Klee's body of work isn't easily bucketed into a single category, thanks in large part to the system of throbbing forms, mystical hieroglyphs, and otherworldly creatures that he developed to populate his compositions. These symbols marked some of the first efforts in the 20th century to embed spiritual content and the subconscious into abstract art forms. In turn, they inspired abstract expressionism. But why does this work matter? In the early 1900s, Klee radically broke with a millennia old tradition in art, the faithful representation of objects and environments from the real world. Along with Picasso and other turn of the century great artists, he jettisoned recognizable content, contributing to a form of art that would come to be known as abstraction. Klee was an early adopter of this movement and a member of one of German Expressionism's regional factions, the Der Blaue Reiter, or the Blue Rider movement, which was a Munich based group of artists that was bound together by the belief that art should express the metaphysical realm. This interest was galvanized with the onset of World War One and the deaths of his mates during the war. As the traumas of war continued, abstract artists like Klee sought refuge in forms of expression that were divorced from the material world. But what really inspired him? Klee was a voracious reader and a lover of music. He was a gifted violinist. Even when filled with squares and rectangles, his paintings pulsed with rhythm, motivated by the modulations of Mozart and Bach. He was also interested in the art of children and those suffering from psychological disorders, which he regarded as pure forms of expression. He believed that they had the power to see. A 1914 trip to Tunisia with his friends inspired his rich color palette and distinctive language of mystical symbols that he would evolve over the course of his career. But what is surrealism? Surrealism was a movement embracing the irrational as a means of creating art and experiencing life. Taking pure psychic automatism as the ideal state of man, surrealists believed that one could express the true functioning of thought in the unconscious. Initially, the most important aspect of the unconscious was desire, which the followers felt was central to humanity, the authentic voice of the inner self, and the key to understanding human beings. Dreams, childhood, madness, non Western art, and chance situations became central to discovering the irrational in surrealist art. There is a quick video that has been added to the presentation that gives a more concise and brief view of what surrealism is.
Melting clocks, bowler hats, peculiar household objects, dream sequences, but also uncanny incidents, dorm room posters, more dream sequences, and according to Merriam-Webster, the year 2016. The word surrealism has become a catch-all for the bizarre, the irrational, the hallucinatory. But when it emerged in Europe during the tenuous, turbulent years following World War I and leading up to World War II, surrealism positioned itself not as an escape from life, but as a revolutionary force within it, a movement aimed at the wholesale liberation of the individual, aesthetic as well as political, literary as well as visual, originating in Paris but ultimately international, freed from the constraints of a singular style or medium, yet driven by a charismatic leader. Surrealism was ambitious, contradictory, and complex, and it has a history you might not guess from how the word is used today. This is the case for surrealism.
So essentially, the surrealist method was about bringing two incongruous things together to create something thought provoking. Now, these things didn't necessarily have to mean anything in the traditional sense to be effective. What could be the market implications for such an abstract form of art? A very logical implication for such a form of expression would be advertising. Why would I say that? Because surrealism and advertising both wanted to utilize creativity in an effort to liberate humans' imaginations. Businesses businesses would not want to stick to their traditional way of marketing products and services. They, in the future, would like to get into the business of brand building and resonating their brand ethos and spirit in their consumers. And how would this be possible? They would have to apply subtle nudges in their advertising strategy to ensure that their brands showed images and figures and had the story that resonated quite subtly with the end consumer. I'd like to show a small video of an IKEA ad, which I found, which is surreal but is very creative and resonates quite well with their brand ethos.
Did you know that a lion spends more than 18 hours a day relaxing? But if you've seen AASCOM, think again. Because they're just waiting for the right moment. And when their minds and bodies are fully recharged, then, and only then, it's time for action. Relax into greatness. IKEA, the wonderful everyday.
So if you noticed the entire video, there was no hard selling done by IKEA of their products and services. There was a story that was told which was quite irrelevant and not something that would happen in our everyday lives. A lion relaxing on furniture, biding his time away in a domestic household, waiting for something to happen. It is only later on in the video that we realized that it was someone in a costume and he was waiting for children to arrive into the party to get the action started. The entire narration and the storytelling that was applied to this ad just shows how brilliantly executed it was by IKEA and what subtle hints they had put in their advertising strategy to convey the brand ethos. And this is why surrealism and advertising go very well together.